All right, so let's go ahead and start our journey into 3D by doing some primitive modeling. Primitive modeling refers to using geometric primitives to construct objects. It's the most basic form of modeling and the earliest form of 3D modeling in a certain sense that ever happened. Now, primitives are what we make by default. They're called geometric primitives because they're using primitive geometry to create a precise object that can be manipulated. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use these to create a little floor set, and we'll start by creating our first tree. Now, to create a nice cartoony stylized tree, we can start by using some cone shapes here. So we can access the cone here, or we can access it through the Create menu. Now, I haven't shown you the Create menu, but we're going to start using this increasingly in future projects, so let's go ahead and explore this. The Create menu contains a wide array of different things we can create, which are essentially objects that enter the Maya scene space. And in here, the menu we're concerned with is called the polygon primitives. This is going to be where the primitives live that we've been accessing. Now, you'll see in here there's actually a lot more than what we were using previously, but they do have the same ones. Now, for this, I'm going to start by using a cone to create the basis of my tree. If I go ahead and grab this cone now, I can move it upward in space, and I can use the scale tool by hitting R to scale it a bit and maybe make it a little bit wider, maybe squash it a little bit here to create the basic shape of a tree. Now, when modeling, we generally want to model above what's called 0, 0. So this ground plane here, this is going to be where we want to count as sort of our floor. So that's why I lifted this up. And most trees, they have a trunk. You could probably just use a little triangle here to represent a tree. Let's go ahead and grab a trunk for this. I'm going to use a cylinder. We can go to Create, Polygon Primitives, and we can create a cylinder. And we can go ahead and move this up. Now from here, we can kind of position our tree in respect to that. Look at that, we made a beautiful tree, but it sure would be nice if it had a little bit more appeal to it. We could add some more appeal to it by stacking some cones on each other, maybe changing their position a little and actually building up the structure of a tree. So let's go ahead and do that. The way we're going to do this is by trying out the duplicate command. We've already explored the Create menu. We've already created plenty of objects from here. So let's introduce a really convenient hotkey. I'm going to hit W to switch to my Move tool so I can move the duplicate I make. And I'm going to use the hotkeys Control D to duplicate this, all right? So you're going to hold down the Control key and then tap D, and that will make a duplicate. Now, you may not notice because it's perfectly overlapping the original, but over in the outliner, you'll see we have 3 objects in our scene, not just 2. And I can move this upwards now to add another layer to my tree. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe rotate this a little bit, and we could play around with the scale on this if we want to give it a little bit more character. So for the bottom one, I'm going to scale this to be a little bit flatter and larger to kind of make the skirt of the tree here. And then this one, I'm going to make it a little bit flatter and a bit larger and just move it down to kind of create that second layer and just give it a little bit of a rotation for character. And then I'm going to duplicate it again. So Control D to duplicate. And this one, I'll go ahead and maybe make a little bit skinnier. You can spend a little bit more time adjusting this, but something like that. And then I'll go ahead and Control D once more and make the top of the tree. Now, this tree is a little bit fatter than I wanted, so I'm going to just come back in here and spend some time adjusting this to look nice. But we can spend a bit of time here just adding some appeal to our little tree and making it into something that we would like to see. Okay, so that is going to give us one primitive little tree there. I'm still not a big fan of it. Let's spend some time adjusting it. I think my tree needs to go on a diet here. It's had a few too many cookies lately. There we go. That's starting to look nice. And I might change this up so it's not all just tilting in one direction. And since we're thinking in 3D, if you've only been rotating along one axis, consider rotating along another, just to give your tree a little bit more life, a little bit more variety. So if we made a forest of these things, it would create some interesting angles to look at. And while we're at it, let's give the skirt a little bit of a tilt. And There we go. Cute little tree that we can go ahead and start using inside of a scene. So with that set, I might skinny up the trunk a bit and maybe make it a bit taller. Let's go ahead and talk about moving things together. Now that we're working with objects together, let's say I wanted to move all of these up together. Well, I could move one at a time, which would kind of take a while and not be that great. Or what I could do is I could move them as a unit. Now, I'm also going to use a hotkey here that you may be familiar with, which is Control-Z to undo. So I'm going to undo those moves, Control-Z here. And I'm going to use a hotkey called Shift to select multiple objects. So if you want to select multiple objects together, you can hold Shift and you can click an object to add. So I can Shift-click, 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 and you'll see that's going to add. But oops, I accidentally selected the bottom. I was so focused on showing Shift-click, I clicked once too many times. Oh, I did that on purpose, my bad. So what if you want to remove from a selection? Let's say, hey, I accidentally selected one too many things. You can hold down Control and Control-click will remove. So I can Control-click that and no longer in the selection, okay? Now, if I move these, you can see we can move these together. We could also scale these together. We can rotate these together. Notice, however, they do rotate separately. Now, I'm still not really liking the top of this tree, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time here shaping this. I'd like this tree to look nice when it's all said and done. So I'll try not to be too nitpicky here, but trying to get it to be just right. Okay, so now that allows me to take this here and make it a little bit skinnier and maybe a little bit taller, to just add a little bit more appealing trunk to our tree, so it doesn't look quite as much as a stump. Okay, so take some time crafting your tree. Go ahead and construct that out. So I'm gonna just toy around with my scale a little bit more here. Remember to use your object spaces if you need to. One of my issues I'm running into here with the scale is not following the object space, so I'm just gonna double click and switch that to object. Usually I like my scale to be an object space. Forgot to change it after last section, but there we go. All right, so that's going to be my little tree there. And with that, I think we're ready to go ahead and move forward and talk about a little bit of scene management with this to make it a little bit easier to move. But as a challenge, what I want you to do is go ahead and build out a tree of your own. And once you're done with it, go ahead and come up here and do a File, Save Scene As. And in your Scenes folder, you can go ahead and set this to ASCII and just go ahead and save this out as tree or whatever you would like to name it. So I'm just going to save that as tree, and there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and pause here. And then we're going to talk about groups next.